Welcome to Numismatic Vault, the channel where coins aren't just spare change, they're hidden treasures waiting to be found. In today's video, we're diving deep into the world of rare and valuable 5-cent coins. Some of these coins are worth far more than you'd ever imagine, and the best part? They could be sitting in your pocket or coin jar right now. So get ready, because by the end of this video, you might be looking at your change in a whole new way. Top 1 today, we're shining the spotlight on one of the most widely recognized and heavily produced coins of the 20th century, the Jefferson Nickel from the year 1964. At first glance, most people would assume a 1964 nickel is nothing more than a common piece of change. After all, this coin was minted in the billions. But what many people don't realize is that hidden among those countless nickels are some incredibly rare and valuable examples, coins that can change hands for thousands of dollars and even reach jaw-dropping auction records. So listen carefully, because this is a story every coin lover will enjoy. The Jefferson Nickel has been a part of American life since 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Felix Schlag designed this iconic coin, with President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved home, Monticello, on the reverse. By 1964, the design was already familiar to millions of Americans. But this year in particular was unusual and historic. Due to a nationwide coin shortage, the United States Mint produced an enormous number of nickels, over 2.8 billion pieces when you combine both Philadelphia and Denver mint outputs. That massive production might make you think these coins are too common to ever be worth more than face value. But here's where it gets fascinating: some of the 1964 nickels have features, conditions, or minting errors that make them stand out and turn them into treasures worth a collector's attention. Condition, as always, plays a major role. Most 1964 nickels went straight into circulation and endured decades of wear. But those few examples that survived in pristine, mint-state condition, with full steps visible on Monticello, are truly special. Collectors refer to these as full steps nickels, and they're highly sought after because sharp details on the steps are rare due to the way the dies struck the coins. A 1964 Jefferson nickel graded at the highest levels with full steps can command amazing prices at auction. Now let's talk about errors. The 1964 nickel is famous for some dramatic minting mistakes that send collectors racing to add them to their sets. One of the most popular is the double die error. This happens when the design is impressed twice onto the die at slightly different angles, leading to doubled letters or numbers on the coin. For a 1964 nickel, doubling can sometimes be seen on the date, on the word "Liberty," or in Jefferson's motto, "In God We Trust." Strong double dies are extremely desirable and can make an ordinary-looking coin worth thousands. Another error that excites collectors is the off-center strike. Imagine looking at a nickel where Jefferson's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date is still visible. There are also examples with clipped planchets, where part of the blank metal disc was cut incorrectly before being struck, resulting in a crescent-shaped missing area. These errors are eye-catching and always in demand. Then you have die cracks and cuts, where damage to the die left raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin. While minor cracks are fairly common, larger dramatic examples are the ones collectors chase after. The year 1964 is also special because the mint made some experimental strikes and transitional varieties as it prepared to change coinage materials. Although these varieties are incredibly rare, they remind collectors that even the most common coin series can have hidden gems. Now, why should collectors pay attention to the 1964 nickel? The answer is simple: it's a coin that teaches us not to overlook the everyday change in our pockets. Even a coin minted in huge numbers can hide rare varieties, errors, or superb conditions that dramatically increase its value. And because nickels from this year are still commonly found, the thrill of discovery is very real. You might stumble upon one of these valuable pieces while searching through rolls or jars at home, and here comes the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1964 Jefferson nickels will never be worth more than 5 cents, the rarest examples, in pristine condition or with striking errors, have shocked collectors with their value. Believe it or not, one of these nickels has been sold for an incredible $81,000, yes, $81,000 for a Jefferson nickel from 1964. That's why collectors are so passionate about examining every detail, every error, and every grade, because you never know when an everyday coin could turn out to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Top 2. We're talking about the Jefferson Nickel from the year 1984. At first glance, this nickel may seem like just another ordinary coin you'd find in your pocket change, but some examples of the 1984 Jefferson Nickel can be worth far more than you might ever expect. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll learn why collectors search for this year, what rare features and errors can make it extremely valuable, and just how much money the rarest of these nickels can bring. The Jefferson Nickel has been a constant presence in American coinage since 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, it honors President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side, with his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. Over the decades, billions of these nickels were minted, and by the 1980s, the design had become one of the most familiar pieces of American currency. Yet, even coins minted in very large numbers can hide rare and desirable varieties that command strong prices from collectors. Let's take a closer look at the 1984 nickel. The U.S. Mint struck these coins at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with hundreds of millions released into circulation. Because of this, most 1984 nickels are very common and only worth their face value of 5 cents. But here's the fascinating part: a small number of these coins show unusual errors, striking varieties, or survive in flawless condition that makes them anything but ordinary. One of the most famous errors associated with Jefferson nickels, including the 1984 issue, is the double die variety. A double die happens when the coin's design is impressed into the die more than once at slightly different angles, creating visible doubling on the coin. For 1984 nickels, doubling can sometimes appear on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date. When visible and strong, these double dies are highly sought after, because they're rare and instantly recognizable. Collectors also keep an eye out for full steps on the Monticello reverse. Because of how these coins were struck, the fine details on Monticello's steps often appear weak or worn, even on uncirculated coins. A nickel with fully visible, sharp steps is significantly scarcer and earns a special premium. For 1984 nickels, finding a coin with 5 or 6 full steps, in mint state condition, is no small challenge, and these are among the most desirable examples. Now let's talk about other dramatic errors that can make the 1984 nickel valuable. Off-center strikes are a big one. This happens when the blank planchet isn't lined up properly in the press, causing the design to be struck off-center. Depending on how far the design is shifted, these errors can be worth a lot more than face value, especially if the date remains fully visible. Another exciting error is the clipped planchet. In this case, part of the blank disc was improperly cut from the metal sheet, leaving a crescent-shaped clip missing from the coin. These are always interesting finds and bring strong collector demand. That you'll also want to know about die cracks and cuts. As dies wear out or break, they can leave raised lines or blobs of extra metal on coins. While small cracks are fairly common, larger, dramatic cuts or cracks are far more eye-catching and valuable, and of course, condition is everything. The vast majority of 1984 nickels have circulated heavily, so most surviving examples show scratches, dings, and wear. Finding one that's still bright, lustrous, and graded at the highest mint state levels by professional grading services can transform a simple nickel into a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So why does this coin capture the attention of collectors today? It's because the 1984 Jefferson Nickel proves a very important point in coin collecting. Even modern-looking coins, struck in the millions or even billions, can have rare versions that turn them into hidden treasures. It reminds us that the everyday change in your pocket might still hold surprises, and now, the part you've been waiting for. While most 1984 nickels are worth only 5 cents, there are rare examples, especially those with major double dies, dramatic errors, or superb full-step strikes, that have shocked collectors at auction. Believe it or not, the rarest and most valuable examples of the 1984 Jefferson Nickel have reached an astounding price of $79,000, yes, $79,000 for a nickel you might not even notice in your spare change. That's why collectors remain passionate about examining every detail of coins like this, because you never know when you'll uncover one of these hidden gems. Top 3. We are going to talk about a coin that is often overlooked, yet carries stories, secrets, and surprising value. We're shining the spotlight on the Jefferson Nickel from the year 1985. At first glance, this coin may seem like an ordinary 5-cent piece, something you might find in your spare change jar, but don't be fooled. This particular year and design holds exciting varieties, rare mint errors, and some exceptionally preserved pieces that can transform an everyday nickel into a small fortune. The Jefferson Nickel has been a part of American coinage since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, it features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, one of the nation's founding fathers and the third President of the United States. On the reverse side, we see his grand home, Monticello, a symbol of architecture and American history. By 1985, the Jefferson Nickel had already been minted for nearly half a century, and while billions had been produced over the years, not all nickels are created equal. Some stand out because of unique flaws, striking varieties, or outstanding preservation that makes them incredibly valuable. So, what makes the 1985 Jefferson Nickel so interesting to collectors? First, let's talk about the minting. These coins were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with enormous quantities released into circulation. Because so many were made, most examples are extremely common. However, as collectors know, it's not about how many were minted, but how many survived in top condition or with fascinating errors. That's where the story of the 1985 nickel gets exciting. One of the most famous and desirable features collectors look for is the full steps on Monticello. The steps leading up to Jefferson's home on the reverse are incredibly fine and delicate. Because of the minting process, most coins do not show all of these steps clearly. A coin graded with 5 or 6 full steps is much scarcer, and when found in high mint state condition, these coins carry a significant premium. For 1985 nickels, a full step variety can make a dramatic difference in value. Then, there are double die varieties. A double die happens when the design is imprinted into the die more than once, leaving doubling effects visible on letters, numbers, or features of the design. For some 1985 nickels, doubling can appear on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date itself. These varieties are prized by collectors because they're unusual and much rarer than standard issues, but that's not all. Error coins from 1985 can be especially fascinating. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, are popular because they're visually striking and one-of-a-kind. Another valuable error type is the clipped planchet, where part of the coin's blank is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped cut in the metal. Additionally, die cracks, cuts, and other striking errors create unique coins that can sell for far more than face value. Each one is essentially a mistake turned into a collectible treasure. Condition also plays a massive role in determining the value of a 1985 Jefferson nickel. Most of these coins were used heavily in daily commerce, meaning they have scratches, wear, and dull surfaces. However, when one survives in pristine mint state condition, untouched by circulation, its value increases significantly. High-grade examples certified by grading services can bring prices that shock collectors who may have once thought of the coin as ordinary pocket change. Why is this coin so appealing to collectors today? Because it teaches an important lesson: even coins that are recent, produced in huge numbers, and still easily found can have hidden rarities that turn them into valuable prizes. The Jefferson Nickel series is full of overlooked gems, and the 1985 issue proves that every coin is worth a closer look. Now for the exciting part you've been waiting for. While most 1985 nickels are worth only a few cents, some rare examples, whether they feature sharp full steps, dramatic double dies, or rare mint errors, have commanded jaw-dropping sums at auction. Believe it or not, one of these elusive treasures has sold for an astonishing $77,000. That's right, $77,000 for a Jefferson Nickel from 1985. It just goes to show that treasure might still be hiding in plain sight, and your next great find could be waiting in your pocket change. Top 4. We are going to explore a coin that may seem ordinary at first, but carries secrets that can make it a true collector's dream. We're talking about the Jefferson Nickel from the year 1987, a coin that has far more to offer than its modest face value of 5 cents. The Jefferson nickel has been an important part of U.S. coinage since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag to honor one of the nation's most influential leaders, Thomas Jefferson. On the obverse, you'll see Jefferson's portrait, bold and detailed, accompanied by the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." The reverse features Monticello, Jefferson's home, a design that many collectors know by heart. By the mid-1980s, the Jefferson nickel was a familiar coin in circulation, but what makes the 1987 version stand out are its rare varieties, errors, and condition rarities that set it apart from the millions of ordinary examples. Now, you might be wondering, what could possibly make a common nickel from 1987 worth big money? The answer lies in the details. Most of these coins were struck in massive numbers at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Because of this, the vast majority of 1,987 nickels you find in circulation today are worn down, scratched, and worth little more than face value. But, for those who know what to look for, there are extraordinary treasures hiding among them. One of the first things collectors search for is the coveted full steps on the Monticello design. The steps leading up to the building are extremely fine and often do not strike completely on nickels of this era. A coin from 1987 that shows all 5 or 6 steps in full detail is significantly rarer. Combine that with an uncirculated, mint-state grade and you suddenly have a coin that can command impressive premiums at auction. Another factor that makes this coin exciting is the possibility of double-die varieties. On some examples, you might see slight doubling in the lettering, numbers, or even Jefferson's features. A double-die error instantly increases the desirability of a coin because it represents a rare mistake in the minting process. Collectors prize these because they are tangible errors that transform a simple nickel into a collectible treasure, and let's not forget the striking mint errors that can make any coin unique. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing due to misalignment, are highly sought after. A coin with 10 to 50% of the design missing is worth far more than a standard nickel. There are also broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar and appears stretched, and clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank is missing. Each of these errors creates a one-of-a-kind coin, and when combined with the 1987 issue, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity of the error and condition. Condition, as always, plays an enormous role. Most 1987 nickels entered circulation and were used for decades. Coins that survived without scratches, without wear, and with bright original luster are rare today. When sent to professional grading services, those top examples often receive grades above MS-65, and in some very special cases even MS-67 or higher. At these levels, the population becomes extremely limited, and prices rise steeply because collectors compete for the very best. What makes the Jefferson Nickel series so fascinating is that it shows us how ordinary coins can hide extraordinary value. The 1987 issue may not seem special at first glance, but when you know the details, whether it's the sharp strike showing full steps, a double die, or a dramatic mint error, you realize that there are treasures waiting to be discovered. And this is exactly why collectors across the country are still examining their nickels carefully today. Now, here's the part that gets truly exciting. While most 1987 Jefferson nickels will only ever be worth 5 cents, a select few, thanks to their rarity, condition, or unique minting errors, have shocked collectors and auction houses with their high values. In fact, one of the rarest and most remarkable examples of the 1987 Jefferson nickel has been sold for an incredible $74,000. That's right, $74,000 for a coin you could have easily overlooked in your change. It's proof that numismatics isn't just about history, it's also about discovery and the thrill of knowing something rare could be sitting right under your nose. Top 5. We're taking a closer look at a coin from the 21st century that might not immediately stand out to you, but has proven to be an incredible discovery for those who pay attention to details. The spotlight today is on the Jefferson Nickel from the year 2001, a coin that has stunned collectors with its unexpected value in certain rare cases. The Jefferson Nickel series has been around since 1938 and continues to hold a special place in American history. Designed by Felix Schlag, the obverse carries the well-recognized portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the reverse shows his beloved Monticello home. For decades, this design circulated in the hands of millions of Americans, becoming a staple of everyday life. By 2001, the nickel was still struck in large quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Yet, even though billions of nickels exist, it's the rare errors, sharp strikes, and high-grade survivors that set a small number of these coins apart from the rest. So why should collectors take notice of the 2001 Jefferson Nickel? The truth is that most examples you find in circulation today are worth face value, maybe a few cents more to the right collector. But among them are pieces that carry hidden stories of rarity, minting errors, and pristine preservation. These are the nickels that have shocked coin enthusiasts by reaching values that no one would expect for a coin still under 25 years old. One of the most talked about features of Jefferson Nickels from this period is the strike quality. Many coins from the early 2000s were not struck with crisp precision, leading to weaker details. When collectors find a 2001 nickel with bold, sharp features, especially on Monticello's steps, they pay attention. The so-called full steps variety is highly desirable, as it indicates a perfectly struck coin where the fine details are complete and untouched. A coin showing 5 or 6 full steps and graded at a high mint state can be rare enough to fetch impressive prices. Then there are the mint errors, and this is where things get exciting. In 2001, as with any year, mistakes slipped through the presses. Collectors are constantly on the hunt for double die obverse, where the numbers or letters appear doubled, or reverse doubling that gives Monticello a shadow-like effect. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing due to a misaligned blank, can also make a coin worth hundreds or thousands depending on severity. Other errors like broad strikes, where the rim is stretched out, or clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is cut away, add even more value. Each error tells a story about the minting process and creates a coin that is one of a kind. Condition plays a huge role as well. The majority of 2001 nickels entered circulation quickly, and most show the usual scratches, nicks, and wear from decades of use. However, those rare few that were carefully preserved in mint state condition are extremely appealing to collectors. When submitted to professional grading companies, coins that achieve grades above MS66 or MS67 become elite survivors of their year. Population reports reveal how few of these coins exist, and when supply is low but collector demand is high, prices climb rapidly. Collectors also love transitional era coins, and the 2001 Jefferson Nickel is interesting because it sits right before major changes came to the design. In 2004 and 2005, the Westward Journey series temporarily replaced Schlag's design with special reverses commemorating the Lewis and Clark expedition. That makes the 2001 issue one of the last traditional Jefferson Nickels before the redesign. For some collectors, that adds a sense of historical importance, making pristine examples even more desirable. The Jefferson Nickel series has always been popular because it's so accessible, anyone can find one in their change, but it also holds secrets that only patient and observant collectors uncover. The 2001 issue proves that modern coins should never be ignored. Just imagine picking up a nickel, thinking it's worth only 5 cents, and then realizing it could actually be worth thousands due to its rarity, error, or condition. This thrill of discovery is what keeps the hobby so alive and exciting. And now for the highlight of today's video. While most 2001 Jefferson Nickels will remain common pocket change, there exists a rare and exceptional example that has astonished collectors with its incredible value. One such coin has been sold for an amazing $71,000. That's right, $71,000 for a coin that most people wouldn't give a second glance. It's proof once again that treasures hide in plain sight, and only those who know what to look for will find them. Thank you for joining me today on this journey through the story of the 2001 Jefferson Nickel. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes where we uncover more rare and valuable coins from American history. And as always, happy collecting, because you never know what might be hiding in your pocket change.